All right. I think it is time now. Hello, Fanfest. How are you guys doing? Nice. Well, people actually showed up. I am glad. So now that you're stuck here with me, I might as well tell you, who am I? So I'm Nohus. I've been playing EVE Online since 2010, with some longer breaks in between, but you always come back. And for the past 2 years, I've been working on Rift Intel Fusion tool, which is a third-party tool for EVE. And working on that tool has now become my main way of engaging with the game. And it's got fairly popular now. So the tool has 4,500 monthly active users right now, which is more than when I was making this slide, which is how we can tell that it's going in the right direction. And I'm also an EVE partner, and I've been making EVE tools for quite a while, actually. So I started in 2014 with Neon. I was mining in HiSec, and I wanted a tool that would tell me what should I mine, what should I refine, and where should I sell it. And I wanted it to take into account howling costs. So I wanted to use public howling corporations. I think Red Frog shipping was popular at the time. And they had an API to tell you the cost of a particular connection. So I built this tool for myself to answer these questions for myself. And yeah, it worked. Except at some point I realized that HiSec mining is actually not the ultimate activity to do in EVE. And the best way to optimize ISK making while HiSec mining is to stop doing it altogether. So I stopped doing it, which meant I no longer had a reason to work on this tool. So I stopped working on it, and I never actually released it. But later on, I started working on a different project, which I never bothered giving a name to, which is why I present to you the untitled EVE App 2017. It's a great name. And the main feature there was a price checker. So this is similar to the many price-checking websites you might know, except the difference is that it was running in the background on your computer, and whenever you copied a list of items to your clipboard, either from a contract window or maybe a cargo scan, it would just pop up a small pop-up window with all of the prices right there and then. So what it meant is that you didn't need to leave the game, go to your web browser and paste your items there, press submit. It was just all there instantly, and it was just more immersive that way. And another feature it had was chat window cloning. So you could clone a chat window, which opened a copy of that, which looked just like the one in-game at the time, except you could move it to a second monitor, and that way you could see what's going on in the chat without it taking space in your in-game layout. And another thing it did is it brought back the in-game browser. So this was shortly after the in-game browser was removed. And the in-game browser had a bunch of special features that some tools used. So you could no longer use these tools anymore after the browser was gone. And by kind of bringing it back, I could use these tools again. Except not very long after, most of these tools went away because I was the only user of them. So, so they didn't really have a reason to exist anymore. So yeah, I also stopped working on this tool, and I never released it, which is why it doesn't even have a name. Which brings us to Rift. Now, this is my third tool. Now, this one I did actually release, so first time the charm. That went a little bit better. And let's see what it actually does. So as you might know, many alliances in the game will have intel channels, where members of the alliance will report any enemies that they see in their space. And that way, other people in the alliance or coalition can know that there are enemies nearby. And what this tool does in this intel reports window is it just shows you these chat messages, except in a more visual way and with additional context. So for example, if someone mentioned a system name, you will see a distance to that system. And if someone reports a character, you will see the portrait of that character, and you can click it to get more information about them. And yeah, find me later if you want to know why this seemingly simple feature actually requires thousands of lines of code to work. So we have these intel reports, and we also have kill mails. And based on all of that information, you get this intel feed window. And what that window displays, it shows you what's going on in systems around you. So you can sort by distance, and for example, you can see that 2 jumps from you, there was this and this ship reported, or this and this character. And this is super useful both if you're hunting other players and if you're trying to keep safe. And yeah, it has a video, which gets us to alerts. So for all of that, you can set up alerts. So for example, you can set up an alert for when someone is ganked in a nearby system, or maybe you're AFK often and you want to set up an alert to get a mobile push notification on your phone when someone mentions your name in chat. And that way you know that you should get back to the game and read it because someone is talking about you. Which gets us to the map. So the map does all of the map things you expect, except it also shows all of this intel stuff. So you can see those little ships orbiting around some systems because they were reported by people in the intel channels, or they killed someone, and we know they are there because they were in the kill mail. So you can see them on the map, and you can hover over them to see more details on what characters were reported there and what ships. And the map can also show you your autopilot routes and your jump bridge network, so you can plan your journey and see if there are any hostiles on the way that maybe you should get careful about. And you can set up to show all kinds of information. So you can have it show the number of jumps in the last hour per system, or where your assets are, or where your clones are, or where your PI colonies are, or all kind of other stuff. And yeah, there's a short video showing me switching between different modes. There's also the assets feature, which, as you can see, looks exactly the same as the assets window in-game, with one big difference, is that it shows you your assets from all of your characters together. So you can filter by character, but can also search through all of it, which is useful if you misplace a ship, you don't know which alt is it on. You can search for it easily because all of your assets are in the same place. And I am told it works even if you have over 60 characters, which some of you apparently do. I have no idea why would you do that, but yeah, apparently people do have that many characters. There are also PI features, so you can see the status of your colonies in real time, and it can also predict the future a bit, so it can tell you in how many hours or how many days a particular storage will fill up, and you can also set up alerts for that. And as you can see, I had a lot of fun trying to replicate the in-game UI from PI and all of the animations, so it looks exactly like the one in-game. So yeah, that was quite fun. All right, so yeah, Rift has a bunch more features, but this presentation is actually not about Rift. So why are we here? Well, if you're thinking about making an if tool, or you're not thinking about making an if tool, you're in the right place, because you will be armed with the knowledge on how to do it, or how the tools that you use work in the background, and what CCP does to enable the community to build them. So first of all, we'll answer what are third-party tools, how are they made, how can you make one, what CCP does to provide you resources for making them, and what can you expect on the way, and where can you find help if you get stuck on the way. So what are third-party tools in the first place? Well, it's any software that's related to EVE Online, but not created by CCP, right? And they can take many different form factors. So you get websites, you get desktop apps, mobile apps, or even things like spreadsheet templates. So it all depends on what problem the tool is trying to solve. And people are creating some really amazing things. So let's see some examples of tools that exist. Maybe you have heard of this little-known website. I think it's called zKillboard. And I am told it collects millions of killmails and generates all sorts of useful stats about them. So you can use it to send a link to a killmail to someone for bragging rights, or you can use it as a source of intel. So you can look up a character and see what kind of ships they flight in the past, and maybe that way you know what to expect on how to counter them. There's also ESI, which is a tool that allows you to import EVE data into Google Sheets. So this is super useful if you like spreadsheets, which all of you do. I know it, don't deny it. There's the Python Fitting Assistant, which is a desktop application that allows you to experiment with fits. And this project has been going strong for 12 years now, and it's still getting updated. It's amazing. And you get ifship.fit, which is a similar tool, except as a web app. So you can create a fit in your web browser and then just easily link to it. And it uses some really cool tech in the background. But maybe what you need to do is you need to manage an entire coalition. Well, then Alliance Auth is your friend. It has a whole community of its own and a whole plugin and app ecosystem. I don't even begin to understand all of the things it does. It's amazing. Or maybe you need an out-of-game map with Intel features. Then Slazanger's map tool is an excellent choice, and it keeps getting better. OK, so we saw examples of third-party tools. Now, what if you want to find more? Where can you find them? Well, one place you can go is the awesome if page on GitHub. So it lists over 100 third-party tools for if. So if it exists, it's probably on that list. So you can check it out. There's also a new page made by CCP that is also a list of third-party tools. And this one was created just when I was working on this presentation, which is why on this screenshot there's only 2 tools listed on that, including mine, because I added it before but taking the screenshot. But right now it lists a bunch more, and it keeps getting expanded. So this is a great resource to check out. OK, so how do you actually make these tools, and how can you make one? Well, you can really use any technology for making software or any programming language. And most importantly, if you don't know any programming language or any way to make software, this is a great way of learning. If you solve a problem that you're having or enhance your gameplay in some way, then that's going to keep you motivated in working on your project and learning. And if is a great ecosystem to build tools in. There's a lot of helpful resources, and the community is really, really helpful. And obviously, you will get a lot of transferable skills that way. OK, but that could be said about all kinds of software in general, right? So what makes these apps if tools? Well, it's that they work on if data. So how do you get if data into these projects? Well, there are actually a lot of ways. There's the static data export, there's the image server, the if single sign-on, there's ESI, and there are various third-party APIs. So let's see what these things are, starting with the static data export. So the static data export is a collection of all kinds of information that doesn't change during gameplay. So things that only change with a patch to the client. And it takes the form of a lot of text files. So this is where you would find a list of all items in the game and all ships in the game and all solar systems and the stargates that connect them. It's all in the SDE. So for example, you can see the Rift map on the right, and every solar system is somewhere drawn on there. And how does the map know where each solar system is? Well, the coordinates are all of each solar system are all in the SDE. And same for the region coordinates. So if you want to create a map, you probably want to draw some region labels. And the way you know where each region label goes is from the region coordinate in the SDE. And same goes for the security status. So in this example, the map is coloring the systems by their security status, and that information is also coming from the SDE. The same goes for planets. The SDE contains all of the planets in the universe and all of their attributes. So this is how the Rift map can show you which planets are where. And then the assets feature needs different information, right? It needs the names of all of the items in the game. It needs the volumes. And it needs item attributes like a given module, which slot it goes into when you're fitting that module. All that information is also in the SDE. So as I said, the SDE takes the form of a lot of text files, and they are in the YAML format, which works for some people, doesn't work for other people. If you prefer other formats, then the EVE community can help you here. So you can get all of the same information as CSV files, or as an SQLite database, or as JSON files. So depending on which format you like or what works best for your use case, you can use one of them. CCP also provides the image server, which lets you link to the icon of any item or object in the game, including character portraits and corporation and alliance logos. So all of the images you see on this Rift screenshot here, they are just hot linked to the image server. So, whoops, one, two ahead. So all of the icons here of the ships and the character portraits, they don't have to be bundled with the application you're making. They can just be hot links to the image server, which makes it very easy to use. And you've probably seen these buttons before. So they form part of the if single sign-on system. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to log into third-party tools using your if account. So this is the same concept as login with Google or similar buttons that you can find on the internet, except for if accounts. So what it means for you as a player is that you can prove to a third-party app that you are the owner of a particular if character without giving it any of your account details or your password. And it is character-based, which means when you log in with one character, the app doesn't get to know what are your other characters on that account if you don't want it to know. And players can always go to the EVE Online developers website to see a list of all the tools that they are logged into. And if they don't want to be logged into some of them anymore, they can revoke access from that page. And so it's very convenient for you as a player, because if you use a bunch of third-party tools, you don't need to create an account for each one of them. You can just use your existing EVE Online account or accounts to log into them. And from the point of view of the developer, it's also convenient because you don't have to create your own authentication system and deal with passwords. You can just use the EVE SSO system, and it will do it for you. And it uses an industry standard technology in the background. And what it means is whatever programming language you're using or whatever tech you're using, they are probably ready to use libraries that will implement this for you, which is going to be easy to use. And members of the community are also creating tools for EVE SSO in particular. So if you use one of them, it's going to be even easier. And to use it, you just need to register your application with CCP, which is a very quick and easy process. It takes 5 minutes. But the big feature of EVE SSO are scopes. So this will be similar to permissions you'll be familiar with from mobile apps. So for example, an application can request access to your saved fittings. And as a developer, you can specify which scopes you need for your app, and then the players can see all of that before they agree. And so it allows granular access to which information a given app can see. And if you log into an app, you can see exactly what is going to know about you, and you can be sure that it doesn't get any other information. Now, by default, it's actually not that granular, because it's the app developer who chooses which scopes they are requesting. So then you as a player, you are shown this confirmation dialog, and you can either agree to all of these permissions or none of them. There is no way for you to pick some and disallow some others. But as a developer, you can make them optional on your side. So on this Rift screenshot is how I did it for login in Rift. So basically get a list of all of the scopes or permissions, and each of them has a checkbox. So you can just check or uncheck any of them that you like or don't like to give access to. And then only when you press the continue button, the actual login flow on the EVE Online website starts. And it's only going to ask you for confirmation for these scopes that you have already agreed to here. So it gives all of the control back to the player. And if your application is requesting a lot of scopes or permissions, then your players are going to be suspicious, probably, because if they don't know, why do you need all this information? So this is the perfect opportunity to explain why you need this information. So as we see on the screenshot, under each scope, I explain why do I need that, and what feature is it used for? So then you can make an informed decision if you want to give access to that or not. And if it's used for a feature that you don't care about, you can just uncheck it, and you don't need to accept that scope. Which gets us to ESI. So ESI is an API for all kinds of EVE information. So for example, on this screenshot, the Rift map is showing you the number of kills per system in the last hour. And the way it knows that is because there's an endpoint in ESI that can tell you that, so it can check. And same for stuff like faction warfare info or character memberships. So you can check that a given character is a member of a particular corporation or particular alliance. And if you ever wondered how soft maps work, so this view in Rift is showing you a bunch of alliances and the systems that they claim, and all of that information is also publicly available in ESI. So these were examples of public information that everyone can access. But maybe you need data that's specific to a particular character or that only a particular character has access to, and obviously that's not public. So that's where authenticated endpoints come into play. So this is how it all connects together with ETH SSO and the scopes that we have just seen. So when you go through the login flow with ETH SSO, you get a token in the end, which is just a big piece of text. And you can send that token with your request to ESI. And that way, you are proving that you have permission to access that particular set of information. So this includes things like a list of your assets, which is how the assets window in Rift can tell you what assets you have. If you logged into Rift and you gave it the assets scope, then it can download your assets and show it to you. You also got things like character location or character status, if the character is online or not, or a list of your clones or a list of your implants. All of that information is in the ESI authenticated endpoints. And same goes for PI information, the details of your colonies. And there is a lot of endpoints. There's over 200 endpoints in ESI that give you access to all kinds of information. So this, you can see me scrolling through them. They just never end. It's really a lot of data you can get. And ESI is massive. It cannot be overstated how big of an effort it is. It handles 6,000 requests per second from thousands of third-party apps. And much of the ETH gameplay experience rests on top of ESI. So coalitions use it to manage thousands of their members, and solo players use it to pull data into their Excel spreadsheet. So all of the third-party tools you use that are essential to the game, they all couldn't exist if ESI didn't exist to power them. And it's not perfect, nothing is, but it keeps getting better, and CCP is actively working on it, keeps investing in it, and I even have a feeling you will hear some news about ESI soon. So there has never been a better time to start your ESI-powered app. So that was the first-party API, but there are also third-party APIs for ETH by members of the community. So for example, you can get all kinds of kill mail information from the zkillboard API, or character details from the ETHU API, or maybe you want to track metaliminal storms and their location. So you can get that from the ETH Scout API. And there is much, much more that you can get. So if you're working on your tool, where can you get help? There are lots of places, actually. The primary place, I would say, is the third-party development channel on the official ETH Discord. There's a lot of third-party developers hanging out there and CCP members, and they're always happy to help you. So post your questions, and they will get answered. There's also the ETH developer documentation, which contains all kinds of useful information. And if it doesn't have some information, then please submit a pull request or open an issue, because it's very much a joint effort with the community. There are also many Discord servers by other third-party developers. So if you choose to join some smaller community, you can do that also. And most ETH third-party tools are open source. So if you're interested in how a particular tool implemented some feature, how they achieved something, you can just look in the code and check and learn that way. OK, so you made your tool. And now how do you actually make people use it? Because nobody knows about your tool yet. So the most obvious thing you can do is you can post on the ETH forum. Many tools have a successful presence as a forum thread, and you can get a lot of eyes on it that way. You can list it on the community tools page on the ETH Online developers website. So that's the new page that we have seen some slides ago. And you can share it with your corp or alliance. So you can use your corp mates as beta testers, which I'm sure they will appreciate. And that way you can get a bunch of initial feedback maybe before you decide to share it more publicly. And another thing you can do is you can create a video advertisement for the Alliance tournament. So let's see one of them. Yeah, so this is the one I made. And it was super cool seeing it broadcasted during the Alliance tournament to thousands of viewers. It's super cool. So I encourage everyone to do it because it's totally free. You just have to make a short video and submit it to CCP, and they will probably show it. It's really cool. And this might shock you, but advertising actually works, it turns out. So this is how the number of Rift users changed after the Alliance tournament ad was aired. It more than doubled. It's crazy how effective that was. And the last thing that CCP provides is the EVE Online Partnership Program. So it's for all kinds of content creators, including third-party developers. And it gives you access to a partner Discord server where you can chat with other partners and members of CCP. And it's also a great place to get development help, though of course you need to get in first, so it's not for your beginner questions. And you get various other benefits, like you get skins that you can give away to your users, which is another way to promote your tool or service. And to be considered, you need at least 1,000 monthly active users, which I wish you will all get with your new tools. And that's all I had for you. Thank you. So now I believe we have time for some questions, if there are any. Yeah?
How do you get Ansiblix data?
The what?
Ansiblix data on the map.
So you can't really get that from ESI. So you need to get that manually and just import it manually. So you need to compile all this yourself and then import it in the app that way.
What was the question? Project, could you repeat the questions? Yeah.
Okay, so the question was, how do I get the jump bridge network in the app? And the answer is that you need to do it manually. There's no way to get it from ESI. You have to create your own list. Yep. What are you working on next? Well, I'm still working on Rift. My list of ideas and my backlog is growing all the time. And when you release a tool, people are going to ask you to add more features. And then you add a feature. And for each feature you add, there is going to be 5 people who ask you to modify that feature and add more features to this feature. So my backlog is just growing forever. So I think I have like 5 years of work in the backlog for Rift right now, and it just keeps growing. So I don't know if I'm going to start something else, but yeah, I'm still working on Rift. Yep.
What kind of ESI do you need for background check tools? A lot of the background check tools are dead now.
I mean, for background checks, so the question was, what kind of ESI access do you need for ESI tools? So I'm not on any leadership position in an alliance. I don't do any background checks, but ESI provides you a lot of information, like your previous corp memberships, or what kind of assets you have. Maybe if you have assets in an enemy structure, then that's going to be suspicious. So if you get all kinds of information about the character, then you can probably make some educated guesses if they're a spy or not. Yep. So the question was, where do the third-party APIs get their data from? So it all depends on the API. So for example, the zKillboard API has a WebSocket that can give you a stream of kills. And so zKillboard gets killmates from ESI, and then it does restructures that information and publishes them in a different format. So in that case, the data is originally coming from ESI, is just represented in a different way. And then for the If Scout API, which allows you to track metaliminal storms, That's actually manual. So the authors behind them are actually going to the game and seeing where the storms are, and they're manually inputting that into the API. So then you can get that data automatically, which is very nice of them. Yeah, back there.
How are you tracking your active users?
So tracking active users, I just have a very simple tracking tool. So when you open the app, it sends a request to an analytics tool, and that way I know that someone is using the app. And so that way I can know how many users I have. And if you want to be an if partner, you need some way of proving that you have 1,000 monthly active users. So you need some kind of analytics, and how do you do it? It depends on what kind of tool you're making. Yep.
So running these tools costs money. So how do you deal with that?
Well, for most of us, this is very much a hobby. And you cannot really make money out of third-party tools because you're not allowed to charge for them. The developer agreement with CCP doesn't allow that. So the tools have to be free. You can charge ISK for them, which obviously doesn't help with real-world costs. But it all depends on what you're making. If you're making a big service like Zikil, I imagine that costs a lot in server costs. Like Rift is a desktop application, so it's like fully client-side, doesn't have any backend. So the running costs there are very low for me.
What's
Yep.
change you'd like to see for the ESI interface?
Oh, wow. Well, let's get back to the earlier questions. I would really love if you could get the Jambridge network from ESI. That'd be helpful. And yeah, there's still a bunch of data that you have to get manually. That would be very nice to be in ESI. And there are a bunch of bugs in ESI that we would like to have fixed. If you go to the ESI issues GitHub repo, there's quite a lot of issues opened. There's still some functionality that was in the in-game browser that's not replicated in ESI yet. For example, you used to be able to open the transfer ISK window, which helps with SRP programs. You cannot do it anymore with ESI, so it would be very nice if you could do that. Yeah, over there. Yeah, so the question was, what kind of ESI endpoints are missing for me? And honestly, I only use 10 or 15% of the endpoints that are already existing. And my tool already does what I wanted it to do. And now I'm adding features. So my mode of operation is I look at what is available and I go that way. So I just use the ones that are available. But yeah, if there are more endpoints added, then I would be very quick to jump at them and see what cool stuff I could do with them. Yeah, over there. Yes, the question is if I feel if there are any ESI endpoints that give you too much information. So I feel like that's very much a game design question. But I think as long as everyone has access to the same functionality, then it's fair for everyone. So it's not like ESI is giving you information that's giving you an advantage because everyone else has access to the same information. So I don't feel like it's giving you too much information. So obviously opinions might differ. Yep.
So piggybacking off of that, one example is with hauling. So if you're going to haul stuff, you put it in your freighter, the ESI does not track what inventory is inside your hauling ship. I imagine that that's on purpose because someone like us could build a ganking app where you could track people moving in real time what's in their ship, and then safety doc can come in and just bop you. And so I think there are some things that's probably for the best not to put in the ESI. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so the question was if that ESI doesn't provide you, for example, the contents of your ship, which could be used for ganking apps. But I mean, my answer to that is that if it did provide that information, it would obviously be behind some ESI scope, right? So if you're a ganker, you couldn't access that anyway, right? As long as all of the information is protected behind a scope or a permission, and you only give access to tools that you trust and you use, then it shouldn't get into the wrong hands, hopefully. Yep.
With the thousands of requests sent to ESI every second, do you think that we reach the limit of ESI, the technical limit? Does it happen that your third-party apps doesn't work or give weird results because ESI is a bit, overwhelmed? Because I am in a large alliance, we use alliance code, and sometimes some weird things happen, and it say, oh, it's TCP ESI.
Yeah, so if I heard the question correctly, it was if ESI can handle enough requests in your application, or if you can get some problems with too many requests. And yes, that definitely happens, but it depends what you're doing. Because if you're using something like Alliance Auth that's managing thousands of members, then you're probably hammering ESI with tons and tons of requests, and you might get problems then. But then when I'm making Rift, which is a desktop application that runs on your computer, and all of the ESI requests are coming from your computer, so they always come from a single computer and a single player. So it's like distributed that way, because there's not a single place that sends all of the ESI requests that my app needs, because they all come from individual players. So depending on the architecture of your project, this might be a problem or might not be a problem. Yeah, in the back. Yeah, so there is the ESI issues repository on GitHub where you can, I mean, that's fine. Where you can report bugs in ESI or request new stuff to be added to ESI. Now, there is quite a backlog there. I hope that CCP will go through it. But definitely post your request in the ESI issues repo and upvote existing suggestions, because there are many existing suggestions there. Yep.
I was just wondering, is there, you said ESI apps you can trust. Are such apps open source, or are they, like for instance, your Rift app, I look and think there's lots of good stuff there, there's also lots of stuff I wouldn't necessarily want, how open source is the community about this, how do we know we can trust them?
Yeah, so as I said, so the question was, how can you trust apps, and are they open source? So most of the if tools are open source, including Rift. You can check out the source code of Rift. But then it also depends on the architecture of the specific tool. If it's a website, then yeah, you can check the source code, but how do you know that the website that you're using is actually running the same source code, right? So does it really help you that it's open source? It only helps you if you run your own version. And then same for me, really. You can see the source code of Rift, but if you install it from me, do you know that it's actually running the same source code? So there is a degree of trust. And I guess you have the partner program. I guess if the author is the partner, then you can probably trust them, please. So yeah, for most tools, you can check the source code, but also be mindful that it doesn't really mean that you're 100% safe. So there is a trust factor there. And just for accessing data, the example I've shown, you can control in Rift, at least, which specific scopes you're agreeing to and which you're not agreeing to. So you know what's the surface of information that you're exposing to that particular application. Yeah, in the back. Yeah, so this was more of a comment than a question. But yeah, all the third-party developers have to sign an agreement with CCP, which hopefully they wouldn't violate by doing anything nefarious with your data. Yep.
Any pitfalls or other really weirdness of the ESI
Well, yeah, the question was if there are any things that a beginner developer to ESI should know to avoid any pitfalls. Well, what you should definitely do is check out the documentation for ESI and all of the special headers that it's sometimes sending. It will tell you the error limit that you can make, so which is kind of a rate limit, so you know not to send too many requests. If you're sending too many requests over your limit, then you'll get banned, and then you will be sad. And you'll have to wait to be unbanned. So yeah, be mindful. I would say be mindful of the limits that are very much presented to you, so you can just use that information. Sorry?
That ban limit is then rated to the player running the tool, not you as a developer.
I mean, the limit is, I believe, per IP address. So yeah, if it's a client-side app, then it's per player. If it's a service that you're running on your server for lots of players, then it's per the entire service. All right, I think that's all of the questions. Thank you very much.